Once upon a time, there was an academic professor named Simon and a business manager named Taylor. Their friendship was strong and they liked to talk about their jobs with each other. Simon also happened to be close buddies with Henry Mintzberg. Taylor recently became a manager of the R&D department of a large tech firm in the Netherlands. The R&D department was not performing well and consisted of a team of young millennials. Taylor was given the job to enhance the performance of this team, but had no experience in managing such a group. Although she'd been on the job for 1.5 months, nothing had improved yet. Stressed out about the situation, Taylor decided to seek out advice from Simon.
Simon, I don't know what to do. I'm worried about the individual ethical responsibility of the team members. Ethics is one of the hot topics in my field, and it's my responsibility to instill ethics in my team. What can I do?
This is a tricky situation to handle, and with power also comes responsibilities. As a manager, you can use different sources of power such as coercive, reward, referent, or expert power. Each of these have different effects on the ethical behavior of employees. You need to refrain from using coercive power as it has a negative impact on the ethical behavior of the team.
Okay, what about reward power? It might work.
Well, that's not completely true actually. Reward power works, but the impact is next to zero. To instill ethics properly, I would recommend either referent power or expert power. Referent power is when employees identify with the management of their objectives. Expert power is when employees perceive that management has special knowledge.
But how will I use these in practical life? It sounds difficult.
That is a common issue. Talking about managerial concepts is easy, but implementing them is a completely different story. For expert power, it is up to you to show your peers that you have special knowledge and expertise in the field in order for them to perceive you as competent enough. They will follow your lead. As for referent power, you need to pay attention to your team and figure out if they identify with the management objectives. This is something that does not happen overnight. I am confident in you that you will be able to figure this out over time.
Thank you. Another issue I would like your advice on is diversity. In today's business world, diversity is one of the buzzwords. I understand that diversity in the workforce is important, but does it actually increase performance in a team?
Diversity leads to difference of opinions and perspectives, and through this difference, business improves their outcomes. At the same time, these differences require 2 words: tolerance and respect.
Okay, I think tolerance means the willingness to allow the existence of opinions and behaviors that one dislikes or disagrees with. But how does it play a role here?
For diversity to thrive, we need to go beyond tolerance towards respect. It requires the ability to judge and rational reflection, and we need to be sensitive to emotions and sentiments of other people.
It's not only ethics and diversity that I'm worried about. I was selected to improve the team's performance, but I feel like I don't receive any social support from my bosses, which makes the job even harder.
Do you know of the glass ceiling?
Yes, I do.
That's good, but you might now be facing another problem called the glass cliff. This entails that when compared to men, women who break through the glass ceiling are often appointed to positions that are more precarious and associated with a higher risk of failure. This is the result of the stereotypical perception that women are better suitable leaders in times of crisis and better people managers, i.e. think crisis, think female.
Aha! Is it a little bit like Theresa May and Brexit, with her having to pick up the pieces after David Cameron resigned?
Yes, this might indeed be a classical example.
Well, I get it now, but what can I do about it?
One way is to keep in mind that explanations must be persuasive. Interventions that threaten one's identity are unlikely to be embraced. Thus, interventions need to be carefully selected, explained, and properly enacted through organizational practice.
Thank you. I guess I will think carefully about how to discuss this with my male boss. Also, there is something else that makes me feel quite insecure. As you know, I didn't attend a business school before I started my job. I simply started working. Maybe that's the reason why I cannot lead properly.
Oh no, that's not an accurate way to think at all. One important thing that I've learned from my friend Henry Mintzberg is that leadership is earned, not anointed. There is a huge difference between what is taught in business schools and management on the job. In fact, Mintzberg even states that managers cannot be created in the classroom. The only way to learn management is by doing it and experiencing it.
But all these people in my R&D department have impressive job titles and went to the most prestigious business schools. I mean, what does a corporate operations facilitator even mean?
Well, Taylor, the problem of grandiosity is increasingly common. Grandiosity refers to a delusion of one's significance and is the tendency to constantly exaggerate status. Nowadays, everyone aspires to be a leader or an entrepreneur, while it is way less appealing to claim that most people are simply followers. Everybody wants to feel significant and special, which leads to giving people job titles such as corporate operations facilitator. It seems impressive, yes, but when everyone has the same prestigious titles or degrees, these titles lose its meaning and become rather banal.
Do you think we could also discuss the operational challenges that I'm having? My job is to enhance the performance of the R&D department, but in the past 1.5 months, I feel like I spend a lot of time putting out fires. I find it very hard to think strategically and set a long-term vision for the department, which is critical for an R&D department.
That sounds to me like a concept I teach my students about, called the predicament of planning. That is to say, you're having a lot of trouble balancing between the necessary turnaround activities demanded in the short term and the capability to think about long-term strategy, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. I think that's more a general problem of managing, as the previous manager was let go because he spent too much time in his office, and people thought he wasn't available enough to implement projects. I'm trying to do the opposite and be super available.
Well, a strategy you might be able to implement would be to block off time for yourself, maybe once or twice a week, to sit down in a quiet office and spend some time developing ideas. Let your team know that if it is an emergency, they can come to you, but that you also need a bit of time away from distractions to build up your strategic initiatives and thoughts.
So, Simon, basically, my concluding question is, how do I learn to be a good manager?
Managers have to learn primarily through their own efforts, as Mintzberg said. You will be a good manager, but you should give yourself some time and reflect. Try doing this with other managers as well. This will help you to understand how you approach managerial problems. After all, being impatient with the lack of progress after only 1.5 months is kind of a millennial thing to do.